Well, here's what the EU have done. So European Union leaders have agreed to ban 90% of Russian oil by the end of the year. Wow. So, you know, up until now, they were able to ban Russian coal. Weren't able to ban Russian gas. They need the Russian gas. Remember, 40% of European gas comes from Russia. So we'll get to gas in a second. But, you know, they're trying to phase out all sorts of Russian energy imports bit by bit. And, you know, the country that was holding this up was Hungary, right? I say holding this up because, you know, they're basically telling Hungary, like, come on, you know, we have to get together and stick it to the Russians. Why are you holding us up? You know, basically, the logic was that, look, oh, he's a Putin ally inside the EU, instead of, oh, Hungary really depends on Russian energy imports. They just cannot, you know, phase them out as quickly as we want them to, because that's simply, it's not realistic. So in any case, let's take a look at what's going on here, because this is very big. Okay, so the irony here is this, is that the embargo covers only Russian oil that's brought in by sea. Okay, so if it comes through a pipeline, that's fine. And I think this is one of those funny things again, where they're trying to appear tough on the Russians with the headlines and with the PR. But you know, when you read between the lines, this is what you find out. Okay. And so there's a temporary exemption for Russian imports delivered by pipeline. And EU Council President Charles Michel said the agreement covers more than 2/3 of oil imports from Russia. So he basically, you know, laid down this whole thread on Twitter. Okay. And he said, like, you know, EU has agreed to ban Russian oil to the EU. And there you go. It's cutting a huge source of financing for Russia's war machine. That's how they put it. And look at this phrase. He says maximum pressure on Russia to end the war. That's a very interesting choice of words, right? Maximum pressure. Where does this come from? Where does this come from? This comes from Donald Trump, from Mike Pompeo, right? Because when Trump was president, they started launching sanctions against all these countries, right? All the quote-unquote evil countries. So Syria, Iran, Cuba, Venezuela. And they called it the maximum pressure campaign. Interesting choice of word. This is not an accident, right? So in any case, the other measures that it includes, they're de-swifting the largest Russian bank, Sberbank, and banning 3 more Russian state-owned broadcasters and sanctioning individuals responsible for war crimes in Ukraine. So of course, with the 3 Russian state-owned broadcasters, you know, this is the Russian propaganda. You know, there are no people in the EU are not considered adults. They must only consume, you know, pro-NATO media, and nothing from Russia is allowed, because you're not allowed to hear both sides and then draw your own conclusions. And so when it comes to de-swifting Sberbank, SWIFT is again this financial, global financial messaging system, right? So you have about 200 banks, it's 11,000 banks in 200 countries. And, you know, it basically records transactions, okay? So everything is documented, everything is lightning fast, and it works globally. And so they're basically removing Russia's largest bank from it completely. And I'll tell you a bit more about Sberbank in a moment. But just going back to what the EU are saying, here's Ursula von der Leyen and what she has to say, right?
I'm very glad that the leaders were able to agree in principle on the 6 sanctions package. This is very important. Thanks to this, Council should now be able to finalize a ban on almost 90% of all Russian oil imports by the end of the year. Now left over is the around about 10 or 11% that are covered by the southern Družba. And indeed, here we have agreed, this is for the moment being exempted. We have agreed to that the Council will revert to the topic as soon as possible in one way or the other. So this is good.
So she's talking about a pipeline. I'll get to that in a second, okay, just to familiarize you guys with it.
That we now de-swift the Sberbank. There's a ban on insurance and reinsurance of Russian ships by EU companies. A ban on providing Russian companies with a whole range of business services, and very important, the suspension of broadcasting in the European Union of 3 further Russian state outlets that were very typically spreading broadly the misinformation that we have witnessed over.
Yeah, okay. So just going back to this article, right? So they've also given Ukraine another 9 billion, basically 9 billion euros, $9.7 billion. And as we said, they've removed Sberbank from SWIFT. Okay. Now, as it says here, these measures were endorsed by all 27 member countries, okay, of the EU, and that's why they needed Hungary's support. And they've been basically quarreling over this since May 4th. So they didn't just come up with this yesterday. They've been talking about this since May 4th, and they were finally able to agree on something with Hungary. Now Hungary gets 60% of its oil from Russia, okay, and it depends on crude that comes through the Soviet era Druzhba pipeline. So this is the pipeline. There you go. All right, so comes from Russia, passes through Belarus, and then it splits. One segment going into Poland and Germany, then the other one branching off into Ukraine, Slovakia, Czech Republic, and then this one here to Hungary and Croatia. Okay, so this is the pipeline that we're talking about, and this is where Hungary gets its crude from. So Zelenskyy was basically addressing the EU about all of this and the need to sanction Russia and so on. Let me just play you a little bit of what he was saying, right? Just a little bit, because it's 50 minutes long, but we're not going to watch all of it.
Що надійне гарантування продовольчої безпеки неможливо без припинення війни Росії проти України на нашій землі. Бо не може бути спокійної торгівлі, впевненого агровиробництва, якщо Росія зберігатиме можливість перехоплювати судна з українською
Right, you get the idea. You get the idea. So, once again, a very important figure to retain. The EU gets about 40% of its natural gas. We'll get to gas in a moment. We're not talking about natural gas. We're talking about oil, right? And 25% of its oil from Russia. So about a quarter of its oil comes from Russia. Very, very significant. And what Zelenskyy was saying in the video, he's saying that Moscow must feel the price for what it's doing against Ukraine. And only then can Russia be forced to, quote-unquote, start seeking peace. Okay? Now, Hungary, they talk about Hungary, but it's not only Hungary. Hungary led a group of EU countries that were worried over the impact of this oil ban on their economy. So that includes Slovakia, the Czech Republic, and Bulgaria. So Hungary relies heavily on Russia for energy and cannot afford to turn off the pumps. In addition to its need for Russian oil, Hungary gets 85% of its natural gas from Russia. I mean, that's huge. That's absolutely astronomical, right? It's like Austria. Austria gets also around 80% to 90% of its natural gas from Russia. So, they really don't have a choice. They really don't have a choice here. So, they're going to basically, the EU is going to basically phase out Russian oil, and specifically Germany and Poland will phase out Russian oil by the end of the year and forego oil from the northern part of the Druzhba pipeline. That will help cut 90% of Russian oil imports. Remember, if you go back to the map, there's a whole stem that passes through just for them. So, another thing that I wanted to show you, which, again, what I just read to you was from CBS, okay? Now, the same day, there's another article that comes out from CBS, and again, take a look at the headline. It says, "For now, the Russian oil ban may hurt consumers more than Putin." Ah, well, thank you. You're finally starting to get the picture, aren't you? So again, this was published today, June 1st. And they say here that, the EU cutting off Russian oil in the short term is likely to hurt consumers in the West while filling Russia's coffers. So as evidence, they point to the effects of the US ban on Russian oil and gas in March. although that policy was aimed at further isolating Russia economically and politically, it also immediately led to a jump in global oil prices. This is exactly what I have been telling you guys for, literally months now. We were live watching the gas prices go up, watching the oil prices go up, because the US had only thought of banning Russian oil imports. So they were, basically just contemplating it. They hadn't even gone ahead and done it yet. And that alone was enough to set the markets on fire. And then when they actually did it, the prices went up even more. Okay? And in the article here, they say that the EU's efforts to swear off Russian oil, which is expected to reduce imports by roughly 1.5 million barrels a day, has pushed the price of crude higher still. Okay? So that makes the intended sanctions counterproductive in the short term. So this analyst at the ISPI think tank in Milan says that the Russian oil embargo could eventually backfire. Quote, the risk is that the price of oil in general goes up because of the European sanctions. And if the price goes up a lot, the risk is that Russia starts to earn more and Europe loses the bet. And I mean, this is not a hypothetical. This is what's been happening. So even though Russia's been selling and producing less oil during the last couple of months, generally speaking, its energy production and energy sales have not been as high, obviously because of the sanctions. They've made more money because the prices have gone up. Do you understand? So they basically handed the Russians a gift. And here in the next line, they say, and because the price of oil is determined by the global market for crude, higher prices in Europe will soon hit Americans as well. Anything that goes on anywhere in the world will ultimately come back to impact the US consumer. And here it is right in front of you. Right in front of you. You can see the situation was already quite bad, in the lead up to the war. But then look what happens here. February 24th, the war starts, right? So the price of Brent crude shoots up from $101 a barrel to 133 about 2 weeks later. Right? And I mean, even in the first week, just look at the first week, how it goes up. About $20 to $30. You get the idea. And right now, this is May 31st, so from yesterday, right? It's at 122. So this is the highest it's been since what? Let's scale back a little bit here. I would say it's the highest it's been since, around here, end of March. Would you agree? Again, it's a bit difficult because I'm zoomed in and the mouse won't hold still. But right now, the price of Brent crude is the highest it's been since March, end of March. So you have here these analysts that are predicting the price of gasoline could easily rise by $1. So Gas Buddy analyst Patrick DeHaan predicted average gas prices would top $5 by mid-June, while JP Morgan said it could top $6 by late summer. Well, I want to show you something because they're talking about average prices, okay? Now, you remember I asked you guys to please send me pictures of, your supermarkets, your gas stations, no matter where you are, right? How much are you paying for gas? How much are you paying for bread and butter? One of you sent me this picture from California. Take a look at this. This is nuts. This is the price of gas. Look at that. We're talking, $6.50 to $7, depending on what you're picking. That is insane. You're almost paying as much as people in Yemen, right? Who are under siege. Wow. And then they make you cheer this on. You got people who are, I'm not kidding. You have people who are paying this and saying it's worth it because freedom is never free, as Joe Biden said in his New York Times op-ed. Yeah, because you're not the one paying it, are you? Oh man. They're saying here that over the long term, Russia stands to suffer the most. Well, really, I don't know if that's true because, they said from day one, They said from day one that Putin is going to hurt. And that, they're going to destroy Russia's economy. You had Biden bragging about this, right? Oh, we're going to cripple him. We're going to cripple his whole economy. Well, right now, I'm sorry, man, but for the last, 3 months, the price of oil and gas have all gone up. So Russia's making more money. From what I can tell, from all the pictures that you guys sent me, the videos that you sent me, the shelves in the supermarkets are still full of food. And the prices are ridiculously low. You won't even... Dude, one of you sent me a video from a gas station in Russia showing me how much you're paying. Unbelievable. Seriously, we'll get to that in a moment, though. But my point is that I don't think this is true. I think this is, again, arrogance. This is a little bit of arrogance here, this Western arrogance that, we have the keys to the kingdom. We decide what happens. We call the shots. And if we say, 2 + 2 equals 5, that's the way it is. I don't know if that's true, man, because, we can't deny that in some ways, this war is not going the way that Russia planned it, to put it very, very mildly. Nevertheless, neither are there sanctions, right? And everything we've seen in the last weeks is Russia actually being driven closer, being pushed into the arms of China. Most of the world, I think people forget this. The vast majority of people on Earth are not in the West. The West is just a minority in the global community. And the global community, if you want to really talk about the international community, meaning most people, they have not rejected Russia or cut ties with Russia. So what are you banking on exactly here? Again, we can't predict the future. I can't say whether it's going to go one way or the other. But, if the current trend is any indicator, I don't think Russia is going to be left isolated and suffer the most. The Europeans, sure, they can wean themselves off of Russian energy and buy LNG from the United States and Qatar and build those terminals, which take 5 years to build. Good, but you're going to be paying more. We're going to be paying more, I should say. Okay? The Russians, meanwhile, they are making more money now. Guess what? Because we're paying more. And at the same time, they can turn towards China. They can turn towards India. They can forge new business relationships or expand current business relationships, with their neighboring countries. What's Europe going to do? I don't know. I think it's a little bit arrogant, especially when the article, is basically saying the quiet part out loud, that for now the Russian oil ban may hurt consumers more than Putin. Yep, that's what it's looking like. And I wouldn't bank on everything going the way they're saying in crippling the Russians. I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll wait and see.